Hello, Freda Wallace.
Hiya, welcome to Gender Nebulous. What are we on?
What are we on? I don't know what you're on.
41.
I'm on 41.
I'm on
41.
I'm on
wine, actually.
I'm on Heineken.
I've got some wine, but it's disappearing in the background.
Gender Nebulous 41. There we go. We got there in the end. So I'm calling this one the Last Supper. It's the night before Good Friday. So this is. Well, I was gonna get a hobnob and say this is my body and this is my blood.
Are you sure it's not the resurrection?
I am the resurrection and the light.
Well, after last night, I think we need one, don't we?
So yeah, last night. Let's talk about.
Let's start with the white elephant in the corner of the room.
Yeah, well, I was invited on to speak to Piers Morgan originally, but it turned out not to be Piers Morgan, a nice lady called Rosalind. But I was told initially that it was going to be Kelly J. Keane, so I was all revved up, I was all, I was going to get her. I was definitely going to get her. So I had all this anger ready. It wasn't like nastiness.
This was Talk TV, wasn't it, last night? Yeah.
Talk TV, Talk TV. And the last minute, they said, Kelly's not coming now. We've got somebody else, another trans woman. And I thought, well, that's interesting. 2 trans people on the same show. This is a first. And it turns out the trans person in question was LGBT Alliance enthusiast and general kind of duplicitous. I'm not going to use any pejoratives. It was Debbie Hayton. So I straight away I was like, oh no, not Debbie.
Yeah.
And I kind of did say what I wanted to say, but you could see I was getting more and more frustrated. But and at the end, I kind of went a bit off piste, didn't I? And
you went a bit off track with the. There was a little segment where you were kind of talking about Debbie Hayton's kind of identity.
That's where. Yeah,
and she or he, we don't know which was kind of hiding behind the title of Dr. Debbie. And, that's a bit duplicitous of her, I think, or him, whatever they are.
Well, the way I see it, I was wrong. Whatever Debbie, he, she, whatever she wants to identify as, that's brilliant. You get along with that, Debbie. Yeah. That's you enjoy yourself. But don't come onto TV, don't come onto a debate show where they platform specifically trans people about a trans issue, where you're saying you're one of the good ones.
Well, Debbie said on the show that they identify as male, and they don't use female spaces. So if that's the case, you don't really have a right to be on a show talking about trans issues because you clearly not trans.
Well, no, I think everybody has a right to freedom of speech
right
and say whatever you want. But it's coming from for me, Debbie Hayton is coming from a duplicitous point of view.
Yeah, I mean, Talk TV should really be inviting on a couple of trans people who identify as trans.
Yeah, because this law,
have a proper conversation.
The proposed change in the law only affects trans people, right? So when she's there going, well, I'm not. I go in female spaces anyway. It's like, well, what are you on about then? It doesn't affect you. You go and enjoy yourself in the gents.
Yeah,
Debbie.
Exactly.
Mr. Debbie.
You go and enjoy yourself. Dr. Debbie.
You go and enjoy yourself in the male changing rooms, Mr. Debbie. And let me make the argument. Let me make the case for why trans women are not the threat that you hope they are. Now, I think what Debbie has done is because she's tried to be a moderate, right? She's probably tried to think, right, what is the logical? Being a scientist that she is, she's probably thought, well, what's the factual? What's the facts of it? While totally ignoring the sociological and every other aspect of being a human being, she's decided to side with, and not only just say, it'd be fine if she just said, I'm not trans, I'm non-binary or whatever, but not just that, she's actually sided with people and written articles that have appeared in magazines that are definitely right-wing and anti-trans. And I've looked into these organisations quite a lot. I know about Tufton Street. I know about the New Culture Forum. I know about the Heritage Foundation. I know about Christian Concern. And these are the people that put out these articles. And these are the people that are funding most of this stuff. Now, great. You can make a case for making spaces for women safer anything that makes spaces for women safer is fucking brilliant. But they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're looking the wrong way. And instead of looking at perpetrators and what is the causes of that, they're going, oh, look, trans women, it's their fault. And we're supposed to sit in on Zoom, on live TV, and go, hang on a minute, I'm not a threat to anybody. And that's how it feels.
We have to remember that these TV shows, Talk TV, LBC, and the others, they're all kind of right-wing shows. And what they do is they have people on like you, and what they'll do then is find the worst bit in the whole interview and then put that out on social media. So we have to be careful going on those shows because, they are using it in a way against us, even though you've made some really good points last night, and you should put those on your Twitter. You did make the points. We did a pre-interview thing, didn't we, where we were kind of what points do you need to make, and you made those points, and that's good. But they're not going to show that in the social media. They're just going to show the bad bit, So that's you've got to be aware of what you're going into with those things.
The dynamics of that changed live on air. But the thing is, I've got no problem. I try not to use right wing, left wing anymore because it doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Because it's hard to argue that they're right wing when Keir Starmer is coming out and backing right wing Tory policies.
Keir Starmer is now a little bit further right than Theresa May used to be. So what does that tell you?
Exactly. So what we've got to do, we just look at the facts of this thing, this proposed change to the law, which I don't think is going to happen. It's like the immigrant scare. It's like, all this talk about barges and putting immigrants on barges.
So you're talking about the EHRC thing now, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's like it's just because I had emails and messages on Twitter from really traumatized trans people who've got to know me just because I'm a bit of a gobby bitch. And they've said, look, I can't believe this is happening. I'm going, can I still use the toilet? And I was like, just reassuring people. And I wanted to say on air, if you're trans, don't worry. Because there's nothing, most people are cool as fuck. Most people are not going to present you with a problem. Now, the only people that are going to present you with a problem are people like Debbie Hayton and TERFs. They're going to present you with a problem. But you're either going to see them in real life. And the reason you don't see them in real life is because, you know what? Most people, they're too busy to notice what I'm doing when I go for a piss. Or they should be. And if you're not, you're part of the problem. Right? We're not and I'm sure there are trans women out there that are pervy and weird and all this. Yeah, you might find one and the Daily Mail will write an article about her. But that's not what we're basing law on, is it? Hopefully.
It's not. Right, so we need to say hi to the people who are watching live.
We've got some chatters.
Lots of comments. There's lots of comments. Don't even know where to start. There's so many.
There. Sarah Jane Baker.
Sarah Jane Baker's there. Hi, Sarah. Stephanie W's there. Critical Cupcake.
Oh, Critical Cupcake. I don't know his real name.
Roger's there. Who else? Steve Peter Parker. Not sure. Hi, Steve Peter Parker. I'm not sure we've seen you before. Yeah,
so some newbies.
Hi to everybody.
Well, if you're new to this, what it is, it's just me ranting for an hour like a lunatic.
Yeah, Freda kind of rants, and I try and reel her in a bit. It's not easy. That's why I have the wine to keep me sober.
I just want to go back to the Talk TV thing just for a sec because
Roger says that he loves when Freda goes off on one. Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Well, after I did that, my heart sunk because I called Debbie a ridiculous person on live TV, and my mum was watching it, and my mum said, "Oh, Freda, I don't think you came off very well there." And I knew when my mum said that because I trust my mum's, because my mum doesn't know Debbie Hayton. My mum doesn't know anything about this subject really. She's probably like most people, just heard it on the news and gone, "Oh, what's all this rubbish about?" And rolled her eyes like she normally does. And then when my mum said that, I knew, oh my God, I'm in trouble now. And I did get a few messages from some trans people and some people I do have conversations with. And so I thought you were all right, but you've got to be careful when you represent trans people in a public sphere because they want us to be the angry bitches and they want us to be the TRAs. And I said, well, you know what? I am angry. I'm fuming and I'm not going to stop being angry. But I know where I went wrong, and I'm willing to accept that criticism. So I will do better.
Okay, so just to correct something I just said, apparently the person who was listed as Steve is actually Stephanie. So okay. They've just put a note on there.
We don't want to do that. We don't want to be getting that shit wrong. It's your glasses, Vicky.
Well, I think it's like having YouTube accounts with different names. I think it doesn't help. Yeah, right. Just wait to clear that up.
Yeah. But previously, a couple of days earlier, I'd been on LBC with Nick Ferrari. And Nick Ferrari is pretty much, he's a bit of a Rottweiler.
Okay, so you've done, let's just go through what you did recently. Because you did the first one you did was... Okay,
guilty as charged.
Talk TV, James Whale.
Oh my
God,
that
show, James Whale Talk TV show is a bit of a comedy thing. Because James, I think he kind of plays into being stupid.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
And he's really not, because I'll tell you something about that. James Whale messaged me after and he said, thanks for playing along.
Who's the other guy? Who's the other guy that just sits there and says nothing? Who's that?
That's Ash. That's James's sidekick. But Ash is actually the brains of the operation.
Yeah, so those two guys kind of pretend to be a bit dumb, I think, and they kind of play on that. And then
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, it's a bit like Dumb and Dumber. And then you were kind of, telling them the truth, I guess. But it's a bit of a, I don't know if comedy is the right word, but it was good.
The weird thing about that is, like, the comments on that were really nasty, Like, there was somebody trying to make out that was part of a Jewish conspiracy theory and saying, you're obviously Jewish.
Well, he pretends to get angry with you, but I don't think he is. It's just a kind of, it's a front. Yeah. It's not real.
But I was, James did, but I was saying about the comments, right?
The comments.
Because they had my bookcase behind me.
Yeah.
They were picking on what was on my bookcase. And they said, you're obviously Jewish. Look at all them. Because I've got books by artists called Boltanski. And I don't know what was going on there. But I was like, well, so are you not just transphobic, you're anti-Semitic? And you go on their accounts, some of those people that follow Talk Radio, and they are. They believe all the conspiracy theories, all the jokes.
Then you got a caller as well, didn't you? Was it Deborah?
Oh God, I didn't know. I haven't got a clue what she was on about.
I couldn't understand what she was saying. It was like
no, she was trying to say something about women's prisons, and I mentioned I brought the Isla Bryson case up because I thought that's the only things you can be alluding to.
But it was good. It was good.
The interesting thing was the last caller. He kind of agreed with James, and he was saying, "Oh, these trans people,
was that after you'd gone? After you'd left?
Yeah. After, you can't turn into a woman, and James said, well, there are people. And it was the only time he said anything remotely sensible because he knew that this caller was, he wasn't. It was just nasty,
he did kind of stick up for you at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's quite as dumb as he comes across.
No, but he's
sorry,
had
James,
50 years.
Dumb.
He's had 50 years on the radio, James Whale. He's probably heard everything, He used to have a regular caller called Ken. He was like a religious maniac, and he'd ring up and try and proselytize to James about, the end of the world is nigh if you don't repent and all this, and all gay people are going to hell, and it was all, but it's top quality entertainment on a Friday night, if you, a few.
That's on quite late though, isn't it? That show was it like 10 o'clock something?
Yeah.
And then the other one you did was LBC Nick Ferrari. Now you did a really good one on that. That was really good. Even my brother who listens to LBC for some reason, I don't know why. He told me later in the day when I saw him that I heard Freda on the radio this morning. She owned Nick Ferrari, and you did. It was good.
Well, I think I was much calmer. And I knew because what they were saying basically is like when they ask politicians, can a woman have a penis? And I said, basically that's a journalistic trick. The only reason they ask that is to put somebody on the spot and make them feel uncomfortable. They're not trying to find out anything. It's a bit like a barometer issue. They used to ask politicians, what do you think about gay marriage? And they knew that if they asked that, it might tell us something about the character of the person. Now, obviously, in recent years, they would obviously say, yes, we agree with gay marriage. Although, if you're Kate Forbes in Scotland, you'll say you don't really approve of gay marriage. But that's the side point. So now they'll ask, can it's about trans issues, isn't it? Because they say they'll ask about trans people because they know it might tell us something about the character of the politician. Now, not only does it do that, but it puts them in a place where they can either say, well, it's not really a big issue, and maybe we should, maybe concentrate on some things that matter. That's another way they deal with it. And other times they might say, well, for 1%, -1% of the population, these things will matter. But so you can never have a yes or no answer to a question like that, because you're given the choice of being a tyrant or an angel. You know what I mean? It's like, for one section of the community, what should happen? What Keir Starmer should say is, when somebody says, "Can a woman have a penis?" Well, they say, "Well, can a man have a vagina?" Because it's the same question, but they never answer that because they just saying the word penis all the time.
As trans people, we're not denying our biology, are we? We're not. We're both trans women. We're both aware of the fact that we have male aspects to our bodies.
Exactly. I've got a massive penis. Doesn't bother me.
We are aware of the medical kind of realities of who we are. But the thing is, as a trans person, you identify as the opposite or a different gender, and under the law, you're allowed to have that recognised legally through the GRC process, as shit as that is.
Yeah.
Which gives you that you're legally recognised in the sex that you want to be, and that's fine. But we're not denying the biology either. But we do we do have a new birth certificate. We do get that legal recognition, which is important for many things.
Well, what the thing people don't understand really is there is biological reality, and then there's social reality, and there is interactive reality. So the reason people talk about gender is because that's the language. Our language is gender-based. Like from every word, from mother to sister to nephew to niece, even inanimate objects have a gender sometimes. That's because we communicate and we socialize based on gender. Little kids know about gender.
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
define themselves sexually. Well, they shouldn't.
So when you interact with somebody, you're not interacting with their biological sex, are you? You're interacting.
It's like I always say. Yeah, biology is your hardware, gender is your software, exactly. And people are communicating with the program you were running, and you don't have to.
That's a really good way of thinking about it.
And if you don't give any clues, that's fine. If you want to be completely androgynous, that is fine. But people will ask you. The first thing people will ask you if you are not gender defined is, "Hang on, are you a man or a woman? Are you a girl or a boy? Are you a female or a male?" And they're not asking you, "Have you got a penis?" They're saying, "How did you identify?" Because to ask somebody if they've got a penis, now it's different for women because the secondary sex characteristics are a bit more showy, or can be. Not always, but can be. But nobody's going up to people and asking them what's in their pants, and if they are, they should be arrested.
Yes, absolutely.
So on that premise, it's actually TERFs that are actually the weirdest, creepiest people you could ever imagine to talk to, because in all conversations on Twitter with TERFs, they want to talk about your genitalia.
Yeah, demanding to know someone's genitalia is really creepy. We don't want
to talk about that. I mean, sometimes I'll happily have a conversation about penises. I will indulge in the penis chat, but I'm not asking a person. I'm not. And another thing TERFs will do is they'll share pictures, post-operative, trans men. And they think that's fine. They think it's fine to do that because they've dehumanized them so much that the idea of engaging in a kind of malicious communications, of sharing somebody's private photos so other people can mock them, that's what Graham Linehan does. Mm-hmm. They don't see that as a problem because they've dehumanized people.
Yeah.
Now, that is your problem. That's why TERFs are a problem and not trans people. Now, there are trans people like Debbie Hayton who want to decide that actually, no, I'm on the side of TERFs because I believe in that biological reality. But what she's missing is we also believe in biological reality. We just don't have to billboard
she's denying the identity to be trans and to be the opposite sex and to have a GRC. That's what she denies. She says you can't do that.
But you see, I'm in the process of getting a GRC, but it's not going to change anything about my life.
It's just a piece of paper at the end of the day.
It's like a marriage certificate. It's not going to make your marriage happier or your relationship. Sorry, you will have a marriage, but you won't make your relationship happier if you're married. No. You might have a nice day.
It's all it is. I mean, you don't really need the state to tell you who you are. It's just the state recognizing that you are who you are. I mean, that's all it is, and then that allows certain things to be in place. I mean, that's all it is. It's not going to change the fact. Is it?
Language is a social construct, and it constructs society, which is true. But I would add to that language, like some languages, not just English, have many gendered, more gendered
words. I'm going to put the comments on the screen so people can see what.
All right. Well, I'm sorry I've not been paying attention to the chat because the way I'm set up is I've just got too many windows floating around at the moment.
There you go. So the topics are now on the big screen.
Oh, cool. So, the chat is?
The chat, yeah.
Right. So yeah, with the Nick Ferrari interview, it's just like saying the word penis, I think, because this is the sort of ridiculous level we've got to, isn't it, with the news now? Now, what we need is somebody probably a bit more sensible than me and less aggressive to go onto the news and onto Newsnight or go on to BBC, whatever it is, or ITV, and maybe Katie Montgomery should do it because she's much less potty mouthed than me, so she should do it. I'm not saying she should do it. I just picked her out of the ether because she was on my Twitter screen. But we need somebody who's just, It's easy for me to lean into being an angry TRA because I am. But
I don't know if you've seen the interview that Katie did with Owen Jones. I think it was yesterday, but it's really good. Owen Jones he did a segment on the Trump thing, and then he did a segment with Katie Montgomery, talking about the EHRC thing, which we're going to get onto any minute. So, just going back to those 3 shows you've done, so I'm going to give you a score. Is that okay?
Oh no!
Can I score you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'll do it in reverse order. For yesterday's show, I'm going to give you 7 out of 10. James Whale 9 out of 10, and Nick Ferrari, you get a 10.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's not too bad actually. I think the Talk TV last night I gave myself 2.
Yeah, I might be being generous there. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't feel good while I was doing it.
Okay, but if you could remove the bit around the kind of where it went off track with Hayton, would you be happier with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about this EHRC thing because, like I've said, I don't take it seriously. I think it's government grandstanding, but there is some scary stuff behind it because we know that sex matters, for starter, and what's she called?
So I think, how did this start then? I think this started with Suella Braverman asking the EHRC to produce some guidance or something, and then she's written a letter. She wrote a letter to them asking for it, and then they've come back, and it's just a load of,
Well, it goes back to the meeting about the GRC, the Gender Recognition Certificate, because part of that is gender is the legal definition, right? So when you get a GRC, you are legally female, or you could be legally female before a GRC, I suppose, but there are grey areas. Like, say if I wanted to get married, the offer's there. If I wanted to die, I don't want to die. If I wanted to be involved in some kind of legal proceeding, like I knew this, like recently I had to deal with some money situation because when my dad passed away, I had to see a solicitor. And because the way my dad's will was written, my old name was on it. So that was a problem. So it's things like that. These are the things the GRC was sorting out. But with the idea of changing the law, with the delineation of sex and gender, they want to get rid of that idea that gender is the legal definition. Now that, to me, would be completely impossible.
Well, I mean, how would you even police such a thing? I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's impossible to enforce.
But it wouldn't even in a scenario where they said, right, forget gender, we'll just call it sex. All you've done is change the word gender for sex, because people are still the same thing, and nobody's going to be policing toilets, and nobody's going to be having a situation where, right, all the trans women out now. We changed the law. You've got to go home. No, it's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a podcast coming up in a couple of weeks with Professor Stephen Whittle, who is a lawyer at Manchester University. He's a professor there, professor of law. So that's coming up. And we're going to be posing some of these questions to Stephen.
This would be great.
Because, he can give us a proper legal answer. We're not lawyers, obviously. So, obviously. So Stephen's going to help us out with that. But, I think it's really kind of frightening for a lot of people when you start thinking about the consequences of defining sex as biological sex only, because it does it almost nullifies the GRC process, and it could, for example, your employer, if they now can't, there's no such thing as discrimination against people on the basis of gender recognition, should that happen. Well, then, there's nothing to stop them from discriminating against you and saying, well, you can't use that, Lou, because we say so. Currently the law stops them from doing that. If we take away that protection.
But also,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's clearly defined in what they're suggesting, that they're going to remove, from the Equality Act, the characteristic of gender reassignment, or are they just trying to redefine this word? I don't really know what the implications are.
Well, I see, this is the problem with a lot of law. I mean, it sounds simple. It can sound simple on paper, but the actual social reality. Because I was watching the Women and Equalities Commission when they were talking, when the one Robin Mora Wright was on with what she calls legal feminist, this is called Naomi Cunningham. And they were just the absolute rubbish that was being, I put some of it on my Twitter today, the absolute rubbish that was being talked there. Because they have to manufacture a kind of, what would you call it? It's kind of, they have to manufacture a world full of threat from trans women. They have to find, it's like they have to dig around and find instances of that. Now, if you're going to look, you're going to find, and you're going to find instances of transgressions by trans women. Too many trans in that sentence. But what I'm saying is, so what they'll say then is, it's not about the amount of people we find, it's just that the risk is there. So, because they've found a tiny risk, they'll say, well, we've got to protect all women because there's only men and women, so trans women don't exist in that. That is what they're aiming for. That's what they're trying to do. But it's not. I can't see a civilized world where that can happen. And I don't think anybody's going to stand for it. Because the thing is, like the GRC, when that was being debated, it was debated so long and so hard. Wasn't it like the most debated, the most debated law ever in Scottish Parliament?
Yeah, it was.
And it led to like Nicola Sturgeon. Well, I don't know now, do we? I said originally that's the reason Nicola Sturgeon was ousted, but we've had some interesting news this week, haven't we? About
things happening at their house yesterday.
Things being, I know, yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? But anyway, I think Nicola Sturgeon was trying to do the right thing, but not just her. She fronts the party, obviously, but it was cross-party. Everybody kind of understood it. All the important women's groups backed it, and they wrote letters to support it. And we're still talking about it.
Robin Moira White, she's a well-known barrister, isn't she? Discrimination barrister, and she tweeted, I think it was yesterday, that there's no time left in the current Parliament to even put this law change through, so it's very unlikely to happen. I mean, the only way they could maybe do something is if they were to use some kind of Section 23 thing like they did with the prison thing, where they kind of come out with some, I don't know, ruling or something and try and enforce
some unprecedented kind of one-off thing that they've dug up from the archaic.
So, I mean, if that happens, we'd then be in the situation of, well, this is impossible to police. What are you going to do? You're going to start doing genital inspections and stuff like that. It's like, how do you police it? And it's going to, there's going to be so many non-trans people get caught up in it. it's just totally impractical.
Well, what was interesting was I started listening to LBC a bit more since I was on there, because I listened to Nick Ferrari just to see if there was any follow-up on the subject, and there was a bit, because James O'Brien did a segment on it, and part of this segment was, have you heard of Paris Lees? Yeah? Well, Paris Lees rang him and said, "You've known me for how long? 15 years? Do you know if I have a penis?" Exactly. And nobody knew that. Nobody knows that fact, right? We can assume that she's a full-op, post-op transsexual. That's the medical framework for it, but we don't know that. Nobody knows that, and nobody cares.
Exactly.
Because we don't.
I mean, if you look at trans men, most of the time they look completely indistinguishable from cisgendered men, right? And there's a lot of trans women in that same category, and then there's people like me who it's pretty obvious that I'm trans, so it's, for those people who I don't like to use the word past, but that's pretty much what the word is. It would be absolutely impossible for anybody to know, especially if it's an unknown person. So you've got someone there who looks like any other female. What are you going to do? You're going to challenge that person and say, right, I need to see your genitals because you're not coming in this toilet. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
I know we always we don't talk about trans men enough, I don't think. Obviously, because we're trans women, we probably don't. We kind of look at a lot of news that is, and a lot of the hate is directed at trans women because we live in a misogynistic society. That's where that, like when you see people looking at Dylan Mulvaney and looking at how she looks and deciding, she's so ugly. It's exactly the same energy that those people pile onto celebrity women anyway. It's no different.
It's the same misogyny.
It's indistinguishable almost, but with the added fire under it that they hate trans people too. And the reason that I think they like Dylan Mulvaney is because she is so extreme in her kind of comedy and sending herself up that they can say, see this is what trans women are. They're all like this, I
mean, I think we should talk about, Leander, is it Anderson? I can't remember. 30p Lee. He's kind of been brought in by Rishi. And, he's already said, and we've talked about this in the previous episode, that he's going to use the trans issue as, part of their war on woke, as they put it.
This fake war.
Yeah, the culture wars. In the election run up. So they've already stated that they're going to do that. This is a prominent Tory.
Well, they're all primed.
So this to me, what they're doing, what they've done this week. That's just kind of the first step in that process of what they're going to be doing over the next year before the election, whenever that's going to be.
Oh, they're going to ramp it up.
So they're going to ramp it up. So we better get ready for this. This is really a gloves off moment. What's happened this week?
Yeah, but I did say, Vicky, a few months ago after the Brianna Jai thing, I said get ready for a bumpy year.
Yeah, it started
because people are angry now.
Yeah,
trans people are angry, and the people that hate us are not going away.
Well, there's been a massive backlash to what's happened. That petition that was going around. Well, it only had about 12,000 signatures a couple of days ago. It's now up to almost 70,000. It was the one for not changing the Equality Act.
Oh yeah, I've signed that.
So it's almost up to 70,000. It may have gone past that by now. So it's going to get to 100. It's gone up that much in a day.
That's quicker.
It's quicker than the one that
Sex Matters. Because they had 100,000 and they were really pleased with that, but they've been hammering it to everyone, and they've got loads of followers.
I mean, I know that only results in a debate in Parliament, and we're dealing with a very, kind of right-wing government at the moment, so it's probably not going to have that much of an effect. But
I don't think it matters because
it sends a message, doesn't it? It sends a message to the public, the fact that they're having to debate it, and it's getting a massive support. So that's good.
Yeah. But we are sort of indulging in the culture war there a little bit, because even though it's important to do petitions, for people like Sex Matters, it's about point scoring. It's about saying, haha, we're winning. And that's all they care about, because they're not actually helping anybody. They're not even helping themselves. It's just a few really powerful people behind the scenes that seem to be rubbing their hands together and going, we're winning. Yeah. But they're not actually winning anything. There's no prizes for them, where there is for us, because it's freedom. It's freedom of expression. It's freedom to be who you want with legal backing. So that is a prize. It's worth having. Whereas what they want is basically fuck all, and it's worth shit. So that's why.
Yeah, and then you look at the government's focusing on this trans issue, and you look at all the other stuff that's going on. The immigration, small boats, cost of living. There's so many terrible things going on, and they've decided to focus on trans people. I mean,
well, I think one of the reasons they can the reason they can focus on trans issues, I think this is a kind of guess, but like they wouldn't go for gay people because the law is very clear. They wouldn't go for they do go for immigrants, obviously, and they go for minorities, but
they go for easy targets. It's easy targets.
Well, they will explicitly target us because we sit somewhere on a grey area where you can have a philosophical discussion about what we are. You can have a psychological discussion about what we are. You can have a political discussion about where we sit on the spectrum of rights, right? And that is the difference. And that they know that.
Yeah, I mean, we're a really, really small minority. It's easy to pick on people like us. And that's why they do it. It's not. But it doesn't really gain them anything apart from this popularism. It's very similar to how they kind of got, support for Brexit, support for other things they've done. Through this kind of like populist thing, through Cambridge Analytica tactics. They're doing the same thing now with trans issues, and they think it's going to win them votes. They think it's going to be good for the party and all this bullshit. But long term, they lose every time.
There's a story coming out tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. I've seen the preamble. I think it's Byline Times.
Yeah.
And it's more Tufton Street scandal. But they don't think of it as a scandal now because it's like, obviously think tanks are going to want to corrupt government. It's almost
it's like government by a think tank at the moment, isn't it?
It's almost as if they don't give a toss anymore, even on the left, right? And the reason it's got to that point is because we don't have a strong opposition. There's nobody. Well, there are individual politicians.
Well, even Keir Starmer has been coming out with negative trans comments this week. He's moved. Well, he's moved the party, further right than Theresa May was in charge with the Conservatives.
Well, I was just getting to something then.
Sorry, go on.
It's not about Keir Starmer. That's what I'm saying. It's about there are individual politicians within the Labour Party who are really good.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're all bad.
But because there's no will to fight this kind of think tank-led government, there's no kind of...
Keir Starmer's leadership is the problem.
He knows he's going to need exactly the same people in the media and in those corridors of power for him to have a successful election. If he wants to be Prime Minister, he can't fight those people. He's got to join those people.
Well, yeah, if he's not careful, there's still a year to go before the election. He's going to lose his lead by the way by these terrible kind of way he leads. He's no leader, is he? He's just like goes along with like the thought of the day kind of tactics. Yeah. Sits on the fence.
But he's so woolly, isn't he?
He is. He's such a drip.
I've seen rice pudding more exciting than Keir Starmer. But. Shall we have a look at the chat? Because I've not been able to see it.
There's been loads of comments coming in. Yeah. Hard to keep up with them.
Did you see any of the comments? I just like to include people in the chat because it's really I really appreciate that you like pushing and like sharing our podcast and stuff because we've been doing this for like how many months now? 6 months nearly.
Yeah, it was October, wasn't it, last year when we started?
Yeah, and we started off with 0 followers, and we were like, "Oh, nobody's going to want to listen to me ranting on," and they don't. Some people are forced to on Talk TV.
I think it's good that we're getting some interesting guests coming on. We've had a couple, haven't we? Since last time we did a live, we've had a couple of interesting guest interviews that we did.
We did. Lily Rose Hunt, a socialite and community organiser.
Mm-hmm. And we did Eva Echo.
Eva Echo, oh, she was amazing.
Trans in the City director of media. Yeah, she was. I mean, the amount of work Eva does, it's remarkable. She was doing like a keynote speech the next day, two of them, I think. It's amazing work.
We talked a little bit about activism because she was saying like she did, because we did a show about activism, didn't we? We talked about different kinds of activism, and I think hers is a very, very like precise kind of, not corporate. I wouldn't say corporate, but it's more in practical ways, isn't it? Whereas mine is more kind of a bit sort of what's the phrase? I keep swearing. I'm trying not to swear. Yeah, in your face kind of activism, I suppose.
Well, I'm really thinking this is a gloves off moment. We need to up our activism game, obviously. Yeah.
Well, like I said, my thing is going on. I like to put myself in the way of the conversation,
and I understand why some people would kind of criticize you for doing it because it's going on, right wing TV shows. I mean, I understand that, but I also understand why you do it because you're in a lot of cases you're the sole voice. Even though it's on a shit show and it's on a shit channel, you're still that voice. And it's important to go and challenge them, isn't it? I mean, you can't just let them do it without you. I mean, does that work? I don't know.
Yeah, well, sometimes you've got to walk into the fire to put out the flames. So that's amazing quotes that I keep coming up with.
That's a line.
Yeah,
there's a line.
Put that that's my next tweet. No, that was cheesy as fuck. Don't repeat that. But sometimes you've got to fight the source of the bullshit.
Yeah.
But I know at the end of the day, for them, it's all entertainment. Those presenters, those people, they don't really give a fuck.
And we've probably not spoken about, last Friday it was Trans Day of Visibility, wasn't it? And, I had some real problems at work. I'm not going to say where I work, but I had some real problems at work with what we were trying to do is get some trans and non-binary flags up the flagpoles. At various sites and get the buildings lit up in the trans colours. And the amount of trouble we had to try and get this done and pushback from not just management but from the organisation within the company that's supposed to represent trans people and in my opinion could do a lot better. They're just not doing what they should be doing. I had to go on a call with a really high director and explain why they were going wrong with this. I shouldn't have to do that. It's not my job to do that. It's my job to do work. But we're kind of struggling with large organisations. They kind of support things like Trans in the City. It's very performative, and they don't really. It's a pink washing thing. They don't really back it up.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Trans Day Visibility. Although they tried, it was really kind of low level and didn't. In my opinion, it wasn't good enough.
Well,
I don't know about your employer, Freda, but
I was asked to do something, but because I did like a write up last year, and it ended up in people trying to get me fired.
Yeah,
so my employer remembered this because it's been going on. These are people from Kelly J. Keen's mob, and so when it came to do it again, I said, look, I don't want to do it this time, but I know somebody that might. And I had to say to this person, right, what's going to happen is it'll go on social media. There will be negative comments. Don't read them. Don't care about it. Just be doing it because we like to put out a positive message, and we'll stop comments if we need to. Now, predictably, this trans person, I'm not going to mention any names, put it out, and you just get the same nasty comments all the time. All they're doing is sending a message out there that, if you're trans, if you're struggling, people have got your back. That's all we're saying. And people hate it for some reason. They just don't like that somebody's confident enough to be public and be trans and have a job, whatever that job is, And it was just really sad to see the same thing that happened to me. Probably not the same thing that happened to me, but similar thing happened to somebody else. And then me feel like, oh, it's my fault because I asked that person if they would do it. Now, I know it's not my fault, but I feel like I shouldn't have to feel like that. I shouldn't have to feel like, oh yeah, if we do this, what are the consequences going to be? I shouldn't have to think that. But every time we do a social media thing, we have to think that.
Yeah.
We have to do a damage limitation on the fact that there are hateful people out there on social media. Now, it's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, with social media. Now, the mistake I made is I went back for them and I said, right, I'm going to get these people. And then when they knew I was after them, they doubled down. Now, you could say, no, you shouldn't have done that, Freda. You should have just let it slide. But that's not who I am.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on a comment from Victoria Elizabeth. I mean, what Victoria's saying is, I think she's saying this to me, you're wrong about Starmer. His new position on trans neutralises the issue so that the Tories can no longer say that Labour have a daft policy on trans people and self-ID. Yeah, I kind of understand. I understand that. Labour's trying to, neutralise that kind of attack on them from the Tories. I understand that. I mean, it's kind of political manoeuvring, I guess, in a way. But it is really not. It really doesn't look good if you are trans and you're seeing the Labour Party kind of not supporting you when they could do some really easy things to sound supportive. Just say a few extra words to say that, look, we do support you and we will, we are here to help you and support you, But they seem to sound very much like the Conservatives at the moment. I mean, maybe that's political. Yeah. I don't really know. But maybe if and when they got in power, they would, it would be easier to change their views and get them to do some positive things. I don't know where that's going.
Well, it just seems like really
thanks for the comment. I do understand that.
Yeah, it just seems a bit fence city, and it takes somebody else, to say what we want them to say. It's somebody on the fringes, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, we do live in a two-party thing. We very, very rarely hear anything from any other parties unless they're extreme right-wing parties for some reason. Like these people like Lawrence Fox, who set up a stupid kind of fake political wing of, whatever think tank he's representing. Yeah. And I just say, well, we're just going to work with what we've got, which is a load of crap.
Well, I mean, are you getting to the stage where you don't know who to vote for?
I don't know. I mean, I've got local elections coming up.
I know we've got local elections. I mean, that's quite an easy one because it's not like, we can send a strong message. But when it comes to a general election, obviously, no, I'm not going to vote for Conservative. I would never do that.
I would still.
I'm thinking if I vote Labour, that helps to get the Tories out. But that should be the primary. Out. That should be the primary thing, shouldn't it?
The only aim now for me.
If you go voting for Lib Dem, it's probably putting us in danger of not getting the Tories out. So we need to vote tactically, even though Labour's not doing what we want exactly. I think that's the way to do it.
But how many years has it been now? 12 with the Tory party.
It was 2010, wasn't it? So it's like 13 years.
And it's not just all this stuff about trans issues. It's not just all this stuff about immigration. It's going back through COVID and the pandemic and how stupidly mishandled that was. Like, what's he called? Hancock? The guy that was caught like shagging on a CCTV when we were all in lockdown.
Matt Hancock.
It was Matt Hancock. Yeah, I mean, but the thing to remember though about all that wasn't the reason Boris went. The actual thing that brought Boris down was he was caught. Well, he was found negligent because he let a sexual abuser who was abusing young members of the Tory party.
Didn't he lie about that? That was the thing.
Yeah, Chris Pincher. He lied about Chris Pincher. Well, he knew he was an abuser. It was made known to him, but he still employed him, and that was the crux of why Boris went. It wasn't. I mean, they can still talk about Partygate and all that was shit. But the reason he actually went was because he covered up and excused sexual abuse. That's why Boris went. And that's who the Tory party are, really. They're all a bunch of sleazy, sexual weirdos. And I think that's why they like pointing at trans women and saying we're some kind of perverted threat. Because it takes the shine, it takes the spotlight off them. Which is, we all know about Tory sleaze. I mean, I made a tweet the other day. I was like, why is it it's always weird conservative guys that chase trans women? And it's probably not exclusively true, but it is partly true, definitely.
Yeah.
And I don't trust
something else we should talk about is tomato juice.
Oh yeah. Did you notice my little can of tomato soup on my desk?
That was a nice little touch having a tin of tomato soup on the shelf. during your
I think that's why I was so
appearance.
disappointed it wasn't Kelly J. Keane on Talk TV, because I did have a load of things, because I knew what she was going to say.
So the tour she's doing. I mean, I think she was trying to go to Ireland next, wasn't it? Dublin next or something.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they're going to let her in. But I mean, all that stuff that went on in New Zealand. Wow.
Well, yeah, but what I've seen now is her little group of little terrorists have started to group without her. And
there was something I was reading. I can't remember what it was now, but it was. I think it was on Robin Moira White's Twitter feed as well. She'd posted something that had been written by gender crits in New Zealand, and how they're kind of criticising Posey Parker now, because Posey Parker is going so close with the kind of the far right groups. They're trying. The ironic thing is that they're now trying to distance themselves from Posey Parker. I mean,
I think it is over for Kelly, because I mean, Kelly's brand is kind of, vacuous, isn't it? And those people still want to campaign, and they still want to have their whatever it is that motivates them. So, and it happened a few months ago that there were people defecting and denouncing Kelly because they knew she was definitely linked to the far right. There's a group called Woman's Place and Keep Prison Single Sex. They've got nothing to do.
She tries to deny it, but yet there's this organisation, that wrote this article, which is the New Zealand Gender Critical Organ. I don't know what they're called, but that's pretty strong evidence that she's wrong.
Oh yeah, I don't think you need much. You don't need all you need for evidence that she's wrong is to look at her own YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only evidence you need, right? But I think what will happen now is they'll regroup, and there'll be people that are diehard Kelly Keane fans.
Well, she'll just move further right, won't she? I mean, that's the only place she's got to go, really.
You will notice that the usual right-wing podcasts and right-wing TV try to do the damage limitation. When she came back from New Zealand, she went straight onto Talk TV, and she went straight onto GB News, and she went straight onto what's it called, Spiked Online.
But you have to ask the question: why do these far right groups that are getting involved? Why are they doing that? Because they don't support women's. They traditionally do not support women's rights.
But it's because it's got nothing to do with women's rights.
Yeah, exactly. And is it more of a recruitment thing for their own cause?
It's a way to recruit women into the right, because they know that she's the feminist the patriarchy prefers, because her brand of fake feminism challenges nothing. It actually harms women.
Exactly.
Because Posey Parker is somebody.
So their involvement basically is a recruitment drive, isn't it?
Of course it is. It's about recruiting right-wing women. That is all it's about, and they will filter into the Tory party, because that's how it works. It's like a funnel, of wet shit.
A funnel of hate.
So don't leave you with that kind of imagery. But anyway, so that's enough about her. Let's not talk about.
No, well, I just wanted to mention the soup. Because you had the can of soup in the background there. You also wanted to talk about Nora Foster, didn't you?
Nora Foster. Remind me.
John Lyndon.
Oh, John Lydon. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Nora Foster has passed away. John Lydon's wife of 50, I think it's like 40 years. I think that's sad, because they've been together so long. And there's an interesting story about them. That they were supposed to be on the Pan Am flight that was brought down over Lockerbie, a terrorist attack, and they didn't make that flight because she forgot to pack a bag, and she had to go back for it. So, interesting story there. But it's like...
But we'd spoken about Johnny Rotten on one of our recent podcasts,
he's a bit right-wing now, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But we'd spoken about him because he was trying to get the Irish nomination for the Eurovision Song Contest, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It was some,
I'm a bit dubious about him now. He says some really daft things, but I think he just likes being a bit of a thorn in the side of everybody and being a bit of a... He thinks he's a rebel by saying he backed Brexit or he supports Trump. He's not really...
Yeah,
I don't rebellious behaviour.
Don't support his politics, but yeah.
I was thinking about, that I was interested in that story because it reminded me about, being late was the thing that stopped them getting killed on that plane. So whenever I'm late, it's for a good reason, Vicky. Yeah. It reminds me of, there's a story about a woman and she was caught with an hand grenade on a plane. And they said, what are they doing with an hand grenade? She said, well, what are the chances of there being 2 bombs on a plane? So it was like a good luck charm. So she brought a bomb on a plane because
don't try this at home.
I'm not recommending this behaviour. I'm just saying she brought a bomb on a plane because her thinking was, what are the chances of there being 2? Well, if you don't live your life by that creed.
No, that's not an endorsement.
It works metaphorically, not. Are we going to get calls from the FBI now?
You might. I hope I'm not.
Are they scanning what I'm saying on the podcast?
Wouldn't be surprised.
Any more comments? I can't see the chat.
You can't see the chat? Oh, let me have a look.
Is Roger still there?
He's not commented
for
a while.
Sarah Warner's saying a few interesting things. It's all contrived controversy can only be maintained by suppressing the facts. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, not speaking out is not a neutral option.
Yeah.
Victoria Elizabeth, I don't like flying.
So it does seem like everything is a sort of... Like there's always a war on something. There's always a crisis. There's a cost of living. There definitely is a cost of living crisis. But why is everything a crisis? Why isn't something that can be sorted out?
Because the Tories are in charge.
Instead of being a crisis, let's just see these things as something we can work out. Because, these are political decisions. They're not financial ones. The reason people are struggling is because of the mistakes politically that government's made.
Yeah.
There's money for things when they need it, Although we are in, when you think about money now and think about government debt, it's all so abstract.
Sarah Jane Parker put an interesting comment. Like Nick Ferrari said, I deserve still to be in prison.
Who said that?
Nick Ferrari.
Oh, Sarah Jane Baker.
Sarah Jane Parker, yeah.
Baker, sorry. Yeah, well, that's his stupid point of view, isn't it? Whatever. I mean, Nick Ferrari, I didn't know too much about him until I was on the show.
It's a bit of a cruel comment from Nick, that, isn't it? Someone deserves to still be in prison. I mean, wasn't Sarah in prison for a very long time anyway, and served her time, and that's that, I don't know.
Well, if you've been in prison and you've done your time, that's it. You don't talk about it anymore.
Exactly. That's a bit cruel.
But I didn't know too much about him. I'm sort of glad I didn't, really, because if I'd have read or watched him, I might not have gone on.
Oh, Roger's back.
Hi, Roger. Anyway, so yeah, I did definitely want to talk about what, we've covered the thing about the EHRC and
Nikki Baxter's just popped on. Just a quick hello from me on my way to see Luna. Give my regards to Mr. Debbie.
Oh, Mr. Debbie. Yeah, I was going to say, if you're listening and you're worried about this change to the law, I know a lot of people are. They think it's going to be some kind of, people are going to be dragging us out of toilets, and it's not going to happen. It's just not. Most people in a civilized society, we are in a civilized society just about still.
Well, I mean, the other thing to remember, of course, is that, it's the Equality Act it's a law about, not being allowed to discriminate. So if that's taken away for us, what it does, it allows organisations and whatever to discriminate. But if that organisation is a inclusive organisation, they're not going to do that anyway. So, I'm sure there's loads of organisations who are just going to ignore this and not change policy and just allow people to do what they've always been doing. They don't. It's a thing about, the law says you can't discriminate. If they take away that kind of legal protection, it doesn't mean that people are going to start discriminating unless they're assholes.
Yeah,
I think that's the good thing to remember.
Yeah. I think I wanted to say something positive because we've talked quite a lot about a lot of heavy stuff and about a lot of idiots, and it's always the idiots that seem to be against us.
Yeah.
And and I've got really rosy cheeks for some reason. When this just,
have you been drinking?
I've noticed that. And it's just Heineken. I don't know. It's gone to my head. Maybe I should have had some tea.
Well, we've been talking for over an hour. Would you believe?
That was. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've been entertaining, informative, and educational.
In that order, yeah, I think so.
So
I mean, I'm really sorry that we've not been able to read out all the comments, but thank you for everybody who has commented.
Well, I'm going to go through them with a fine-tooth comb.
It's really appreciated.
If anybody's said any dirty words, there'll be trouble.
Thanks for coming along. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Tell your family. Tell your friends.
Song, haven't we?
No, let's do the song. Come on.
Oh, we can never do it.
I know we can never do it, but maybe one day it'll just happen naturally.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Don't forget to subscribe.
You messed it up then. Vicky, you stopped. You messed it up.
You didn't come in.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. You disappeared then.
Right.
All right. So let me put us back to our full size images before we go. There we go.
Yeah, you can see I've got an old flush. Must be the hormones.
Must be something.
Right. Thanks for listening. And I'm going to go and get something to eat. And I'll see you on Twitter, wherever. And we'll be back with the news podcast soon. Right. Bye.
Bye.
Take a bow.